Bangers, I'm Matty.
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm John.
John, that was an unusual introduction there.
I was sitting on the table. There was a gala day nearby yesterday, and my daughter won that when she hooked a bag instead of a duck, so she got a wee dog.
I think we should start doing 8 or 10 cats does countdowns and have mascots.
Oh,
Hmm.
but you need to make stuff up every week. Mind, they got even bored of that because it was rubbish.
Aye.
And then when Sean Locke would be sitting shaking his seat at it every week.
Is the tiger that went on the piss, was it? The tiger that came for a
Oh
pint
yeah,
or went on a
is
piss?
that the origin of that when he's the book that he made up?
Aye. That was part of his mascot list. Anyway, John, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Aye, good. Say good, I've got a mouthful of ulcers. Um, so was
Are you
not happy.
teething?
You better run down, eh?
Are you teething?
It feels
Normally
like
happens
it.
with burns.
It's horrendous. What were you calling? You had a good weekend calling to see Pulp.
Aye, that was really good. Went down yesterday. They were really good. Coming home today was a fucking nightmare, man, with these electric chargers. Like, I like my electric car, and I like being able
Mhm.
to charge it outside the house, but I totally get why folk puts folk off if you're going to use it, like for distances all the time, and you need to stop. Fucking hell. I've still got one ticking away there now.
Problem.
I've still got one ticking away there now.
Have you?
Aye, I'll show you which if you can see. Uh, the 7 hours 49
Aye.
minutes is saying it's charging it. It's unplugged obviously because I'm here now. But aye, it was just so yesterday on the way down, stopped, fired it on a charger. Couldn't get the thing back out when the charge stopped. Right. So I ended up it just unclipped. I don't know what we done or how we done it. Might have pressed the emergency button, we don't know. Right, unlocked it. And then today, on the way back up, I kept getting 2, 3 minutes of charge and the stopping.
Fuck's
So it was
sake.
like constantly just trying it. So and
That's
then
like the when you're putting petrol in, you get that wee click.
aye, and then when I eventually got one, I had to phone the police to get them to emergency stop it because it was the. Uh, he says it's not just me today though. Apparently this is a thing today.
All right, so it's like a
Mm. Yeah, he says
don't
I wasn't
charge your car
special.
Sunday.
He says you're not special, and I said I feel
Mhm.
feel a bit special.
No special. I just try to get the broadcast up on my YouTube on my phone so I can get the comments because I need to bring up the
Uh,
fixtures for December. We're up to December, eh?
yep.
I'm looking forward to it. December was a good month for us, but before we get into that, we had a new strip out this week. John, what were your views on the strip?
Delighted with it, to be honest. The I actually had a wee exchange with one of my mates midweek when there was a concept kit was released by was it Bird Designs or something, and it had like white tartan sleeves and it had references to the famous five, I think, like stitched throughout the collar and various other things.
Uh,
And the way that I described it to my mate it was like a Domino's pizza compared to a classic Neapolitan margarita. So it was like the guys who'd done this concept kit had just chucked everything at it, whereas really what we wanted was something simple, or what I wanted was something simple, green body, white sleeves, and I don't think I mentioned the collar, but what we got was a green body, white sleeves, and a Paul Kearney era collar. So I'm actually quite happy with it.
and is that who you associated with that, Paul Kearney?
It was the only player I could think of off the top of my head in that moment when it was released. But obviously, as the day went on, I think folks started talking about like Gary Deegan, George Claros came to mind, and a few others for
Lee Griffiths for
that
me.
era.
Like the Lee Griffiths not wear it when he
Aye,
scored in the Falkirk game.
it's that game that springs to mind. The
Yeah,
three. Oh, it's a tight strip. To be fair, I really liked it. What were you
nice.
calling?
It's nice. Just a remake of one for about 10, 12 years ago, though. Like smart though.
Aye, aye.
It's not
Uh,
that retro. Come on, I mean, it's only like 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
but the bottle green, I suppose, was a nod to it. We were talking on the phone in on Friday night about the all green one that Hibs released when we had Marathon Bet as a sponsor, and there was a bit of discussion about whether or not it was launched as a nod to the famous five. I
Well,
was
that was the
pretty
one that
sure.
never had the white sleeves, though.
Aye,
It was all green. Was
That's
that not
it.
David Gray's first season?
Aye, it was. That was
And
yeah,
Marathon Bet was in red, right? And it
Aye,
was horrible.
because other John had it, but it had like their memory marches on or glory glory to the Hibs or something like in the shoulder, but his one never had it. And I was like, I'm sure that was a famous 5-1, and that
That
was
was how they tried to market it.
aye. Do you mind they tried to market the one with the slope? It was like the same kit that Spurs wore, but they were pretending it was the David Easter Road slope.
Aye.
Shambles.
Dafty.
Aye. Anyway, nice trip. I think we're all generally happy with it. I think there's been too many complaints that I've seen. A lot of folk maybe mentioning the Bevy sponsor. You at all fussed about that?
And how it looks or in what they are.
Well, either or.
I think it's quite. They've got it sort of hidden away a wee bit. It's like it's faded. And some of the photos I've seen looks all right. It's quite an expensive strip though.
70, well, it's just about 63 quid, I think, for the short sleeve one, 68 for the long sleeve. Free delivery if you use our link.
Yeah. This will save you a fortune.
Aye. I thought it was quite good, but the sponsors did. Like, there's no many sponsors would be quite happy to make their brand look less prominent on a shirt.
Yeah.
In order to try and kind of keep in with the rest of it. So I thought, fair fucks to them. Next thing was Midtjylland in the cup draw for Europe, John. What did you think?
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it is. Well, I asked Liam Bryce on the Observer before we started. I was like, "How are you pronouncing that?" And he went, "Hold on, I'll check." And then he came back, and that was pretty much.
So it's Midtjylland, did you say?
Yeah, like if you imagine Graham Mitchell, if he owned a country, it would be Midtjylland.
Midtjylland. Right, okay.
That's how I remembered it.
Lovely.
Midtjylland. Liam from down the slope will be telling me it's wrong, though. But he'll reference it when they do it. He'll say, "Fucking, there'll be some idiots."
Everybody keeps saying it wrong.
Liam will say it right, obviously, but Liam for the Observer steered me in the direction of the Midtjylland.
Well, we just call them the Danish team and be done with it.
Nah,
Aye, because otherwise we'll be like the Kuharovic, Kukarevich, and what was the other one? We had all sorts in different ways for him. I mean, Hibs actually told us how to say his name and then started saying it differently on Hibs on Hibs TV.
They stitched us up, didn't they? Hibs a list of different pronunciations for players and changed them, which was harsh. Right. So, Adam, before we get into your thoughts on the draw, let me just kind of pick up on YouTube comments. And Kenny says, "Evening, guys, on the bus home from the pub, read it and weep. I'd be more sad if you were on, or more jealous if you were on the way to the pub rather than on your way home. But fair play to you, Kenny." Stevie says, "Evening, lads. Glad we're past the shit show from August to the start of November. Bring on the good months, loads to reflect on." Sandy said, "Evening, long bangers. Green tea, evening, guys." Stevie said, "Never had Colin down as an electric car guy."
I know.
Well,
What's he saying like?
Colin is the future.
Thought you were definitely a V8 all day long.
No, I like change. I'll take the newest toy.
DB says, "Hope you liked your photo from Josh, Matty." Aye, that was a smasher. Josh was yesterday, and I think his DV had the new kit on, so Josh sent me a picture of that. It looked cracking. Kenny said, "After finishing third, our next target is second. What do you think of our shareholders strengthening second place team? Do we need to re-examine our relationship with Black Knights?" Do you want to answer that one just now before we talk about Midtjylland? This is, I think the boy's name is Aarons. The Bournemouth are loaning to Rangers.
Oh, is it Max Aarons?
Yeah.
I think is his name.
What's your views?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think I know that when it was first talked about, was it maybe about a week ago? And then I think it started taking on a bit more prominence again during the week. I think there was a lot of conversation about the person making the comment said about strengthening a rival, but I don't know exactly like the intricacies of these partnerships and their details. Like I think what Hibs have stressed before is that we're not a feeder club for Bournemouth, and we also have our own identity, so we identify our own targets that we want to play in the squad. So you have to assume, presumably, that this guy isn't a target of ours, and there's not a deal that could be made.
Aye, I agree with that, but he'd be out of price range, presumably, right? Because he was on a loan somewhere in La Liga last year as well, wasn't he? And now Rangers are signing him. The only thing is that they're strengthening our rival by giving him on loan to them. Aye, we can't afford him or don't want him, right? Presumably it's they can't afford or won't afford more than don't want, based on the level they would appear to be at. But if we're third, looking to look up the way, then they've presumably just strengthened
Aye.
the competitor, and that's what the argument is, isn't it? More than did we want him? Because presumably we would have. If Bournemouth are saying there's a boy on 40 grand a week, we want him, but you're not going to say, nah, we're all right where we are. Like it's the strengthening of the competitor. I think that's the issue.
I wonder if there's like a financial element, because I would imagine Rangers will be paying a whack towards his wages, and maybe that's just the nature is that, let's say he's on 40 grand a week, I think how much a Bournemouth player will get. Even 20 grand a week. Like if we're picking up none of that, and it's a goodwill thing, then you can see why it would be appealing for them to pass him to a club that's going to pick up a lot of it. You would think the conversation would have been had, and I think Foley at one point talked about using the loans for like Bournemouth to be players on their way up that they're wanting to develop to play for them, or players like Marcondes who are on their way out and they just need to get game time somewhere else before they move on. I'm not quite sure how this boy fits into that category, but I have to say, like it does stick in the craw a wee bit. You think you've got somebody with our, like they're on the board. I mean, it's not like Black Knights and Hibs. Black Knights are Hibs as much as the Gordons are, or like HSL are. They pay their money. They are the club. So you would think that they would act, wherever possible in Hibs' best interest. So they've obviously weighed it up and decided that this is an all right thing to do, but it doesn't seem to sit very, very nice with folk, I don't think. Stevie says, Kenny, honestly, Bud, Celtic and Sevco will be too far ahead. We drop points. They don't every season. Sandy said the Roadrunner thing is real on the shirt. And Stuart said, hi, guys. Any signing rumours? Very quiet. We'll talk a wee bit about transfers in a bit. Joe said, evening, guys. Spot said, any updates on Nectar? I don't know if you saw David Gray getting interviewed by Luke I think it was Luke Shanley yesterday at the Ron Gordon football festival, and he said he was we were still in very positive talks with Nectar and Rocky, so it looks like both of those deals are still not dead. John, would you be inclined to put a deadline on them before we can start look at moving on to other targets?
It's a great question. Yes and no. I think yes, you put, because how to explain this? Yes, you put a deadline on it from the perspective of you need to try and get a squad in and training because we've got an early start for European competition. But no, from the point of view that you kind of want to get a quality player in the door. But we saw that previously with Stokes when we hung on and hung on and hung on, and he ended up getting transferred, I think, or released in the January transfer window. So I don't know. Like it's hard to pick an answer. Like I guess what's the one do you think that is the least risky?
I think they've got to look at likelihood. Is he going to sign? Do we think he's going to sign? But we can't wait. We can't keep hanging about. They've got to have. It's like when we were all in on McCowan, and then we ended up no signing anybody of that type. We can't just be waiting and waiting and waiting on them, seeing if they got a better deal elsewhere, and then we're just standing waiting on them, begging to take them. Like we'll just need to say, right, that's fine. Like make your mind up. We are looking elsewhere, and if we see somebody, the deal might be taken back off the table. Then you put a time on it. Just say, we might still want you. Like, but we are looking actively elsewhere. because we can't just wait. We should be dictating it as much as they are.
What do you think talks ongoing look like on a sort of day-to-day 9 till 5 basis? Like, do you think they're sending
I'm
emails and
you're
just
going to give me an extra grand. Let me think about it. Let me go to HR and see if I can get
per my
Well,
previous
what
email?
if I give you more holidays? Want a Wednesday off?
Have you decided yet? No. Phone you tomorrow. Right. How about now? No. Right. I'll phone you tomorrow. Bit like that. I don't know. Because surely you get to a point where you know what they want and what we'll offer. And that's not going to budge much now, I wouldn't think. So
Well, I can
really
think
mine, isn't it?
yeah, the football, it must be like, right, we're let's make numbers up, right? We'll give you four grand a week, 3 years, and they're going, well, I want 5 over 4 years. And we go, well, we'll give you the 5 years, but we're not moving for the 4 grand. And then they just go, well, I'll just wait and see if I can get somewhere else in. And we go, all right. And that's it. That's the talks are, well, we're not moving, you're not moving.
Aye.
Yes, I'll have to.
I think when I was talking about like what's the least risky option, how I think if Hibs walk away from the deal, like in whatever scenario, if Triantis doesn't sign for Hibs, like Hibs will get it in the neck from supporters. It will be you never fucking sign him. You only want to pay enough money for him. You wouldn't give him the deal that he wanted, etc., etc. Like, how do you manage that as a club? Like, do you just well, how do you think you manage that as a
I
club?
think there's a no-win situation, is it? Unless, because even chucking everything at it, if the players weighing up their options, you're not going to get them quickly. And you run the risk, like Colin says, with McCowan, is we went right to the wire with it. Celtic came in and that was that. It was done. And we had no backup. So if you sign them early and they agree, then fair enough. Like nobody complains about that. But if you keep trying and trying and trying and persevering and it doesn't happen, you just get slaughtered for it because you leave it too late to go into your next target. So there needs to be a sort of middle ground for it, I think, where you go. It's no like the second coming of Messi for either of them. Do you know, like they're no irreplaceable players. We would want to have them in the team, of course, but we shouldn't be like hijacking the whole squad building for the off chance that they might agree to sign for us. In my opinion,
Just on I'm almost going to. I think I'm going to challenge a point I made before about setting up the squad and going for European competition. Like we're talking about a player who's played a full season and a bit prior to that for Hibs, and assuming there's not much in the way of changes that take place in midfield, he should be able to sort out back in. What I think you're wanting him to do is get up to speed, like get match sharp through the training and through whatever it is that they want to work on the training pitch.
well, they're already
So-
a few days behind in pre-season. Assuming that we're doing well, some of the players were away with internationals. I think both Nectar and Rocky were away. So I suppose it depends how quickly they come back for that and come into the team. Because how often do we hear it? Like you get a player on and they didn't hit the ground running, and the manager talks for fucking months after it about how they never got a full pre-season in. Like get them in, get them the full pre-season as best you can. We've got however many weeks till the European games start. You want them in early, you want the conditioning done early. Like it's not ideal if we're kind of dragging our heels. But I mean, Rocky's not even got a club at the moment, so there was pictures of him doing training in Dubai. I think on his well, no necessarily on his own way, like a trainer in his old Hibs kit as well, which was noted by folk. But that's not the same as getting a pre-season up at HTC.
all right, gun to the head then.
I'd rather be in Dubai doing it and all, like.
I saw that.
Gun to the head. If the pair of them haven't signed by next week, do you move on?
I'd already be looking. I'd already be looking somewhere else, and I wouldn't be. I would just be saying, "Well, we've offered you. If you're not accepting it, we're looking. If you want to accept it, let me know, and we will take you back. But if you're not going to, we're starting to talk to other players now."
I think probably Rocky's the easier one to give a deadline to because we're not dealing with a club as well. Because Sunderland might be putting a spanner in the works as well. And I suppose then it depends what the noise coming for them is whether they're likely to agree to the terms that we're offering, or if they're just stringing us along. But they've no reason to string us along. Like they'll take the best offer for them, and if we can match their valuation, they'll accept it. Rocky, he's not got a team, so it is just dealing with him. So I'd probably be more inclined to give the deadline to Rocky, and then depending on what Sunderland say, decide what I'm doing with the setting a deadline there. But we need to have other irons in the fire, otherwise we're going to be caught short. That answer you, John?
Aye, but I'm just thinking as well, like, so I accept what you're saying about and having other candidates in the frame just now. But what does the Triantis Bashiri contract negotiations mean for those other irons in the fire? Like, are they going to feel, well, actually, you didn't really want me that much. You're just holding me in reserve in case you get KB'd. Like, we're basically treating them like a rebound ride.
I guess probably this is probably how football transfers work. Though, is that they'll go give it the charm offensive, show them around the training centre, talk to them like they're the top target, and then drag their heels to get it over the line a wee bit until they know one way or another. And then if Nectar signs, we go to the other target. Listen, it's no, we've changed our mind. Like you hear about it all the time. Players that are just about to sign for somebody, and then it ends up not happening. So,
baby, honestly, you've always been my number one.
Exactly.
It's Shankland.
Aye, Shankland's a good example.
He's ended up hawking his about that much and nearly signing for everybody else that he's ended up having to go back sign for the team what he did.
Has he actually signed back for him yet?
I think so.
Still stringing him along.
He's still waiting to see what he can get. I mean, they've been in the same boat as we are with them.
Aye.
If they want him back, he may be shite last season, so why would you want him? But I don't know. I wouldn't. We need to start talking. We need to start talking to others like.
Aye.
And I assume we are. We've got a whole fucking department now.
Well, when we looked at that Xavier Simons that ended up going to Bolton, who I think would have fit into where Nectar plays. So,
aye, that's true. Yeah.
You know, we're obviously not sitting on our hands with it, but we're just, I suppose, wait and see what happens. Right, Europa League qualifiers, Midtjylland, Colin, you're a Danish football expert. You're often up at all hours on a Sunday to watch it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they're quite good for what I've heard. But that actually, I have no fucking idea, right? So, but they were in the Europa League last year. Is that right? Actual Europa. So I think it's probably not the easiest draw we could have got. I don't think that there was that many. Like looking at it though, I'm kind of glad it's a team that their season's almost aligned with ours. I think they're a wee bit ahead.
Yeah.
Because normally you get put out with a team for that sort of area, Scandic and all that, and they're always ahead of they do the summer season thing. So then you get back to it, and then it's the excuses. Oh well, if you just give us another couple of weeks, we would have been up to speed in that. Well, we've not really got that. I think they are a couple of weeks ahead of us, but no much more than that. So there's no really that excuse this time. But it's not as easy as it's harder than I hoped for.
Aye. John, what about you? What were your thoughts when you saw the draw?
How do you pronounce that?
Draw. D-R-A-W. Like as you read it.
I think if I remember rightly, when some of the names were being touted, they were one of the teams that we would have wanted to avoid. But that's the luck of the draw. You kind of have to play. Well, you have to play who you're drawn against, and what will be will be. Hopefully, I guess I'm probably going to go back to old football cliches and say, hopefully we keep it tight away from home, bring them back to Easter Road and get the result.
I think that's,
and I don't think that's necessarily a pipe dream. Like I take what Colin said into account because I went over to watch Hibs against Molde, and we kind of got. I wouldn't say we got schooled, but it was just I don't know. We never really seemed to get going. However, if you think back to the Triple East game, when they came over, they took I think a couple of goals of an early lead, and then we came back, won at 3-2, and then we had that really good away performance in Greece. So we are capable with a good side of producing results. So I don't think, like, I appreciate what folk have said about squad values and what have you, but also we have had results against all the big teams in Scotland last season. So why not?
I think that's the bit that gives me optimism. So having the second leg at Easter Road, so we can have a right go at them with full house. Not that that's like going to intimidate them, especially, but it's good for our team if we've got a packed Easter Road. I don't think they're much better than Rangers and Celtic, if better at all than Celtic. Celtic are a Champions League team. If Celtic were playing them, I think they would probably fancy themselves to be favourites for it. On a one-off game, we've seen it like we saw it last season. We can beat Celtic, so why not this team? That's kind of my thoughts. But okay, and then the league fixtures came out as well, so we kick off the campaign away at the Soapy, whatever the fuck it's called, Soapy Scott Foam,
Scott Foam,
Scott Foam, Dens Park.
What's Scott Foam? What do they do?
Fuck knows. Would you want me to look them up?
No,
I'll do it. I know you've got issues with Scott Foam.
You look
Scotland's leading insulation specialists. They create safer, warmer, and more. In fact, no, I'm not getting them the free advertising.
So nothing to do with soap at all.
Misleading. We got our walls cavity, there's foam filling in them like that, and I regret it all the time, especially in this heat. Like the warm weather's horrendous. I wish for a cold house. Right, Dundee away. That's a good draw. Like we'd probably prefer the home one, John, but that's no bad way to start the season, isn't it?
No, it's not. I think given how they finished last season, it's a good chance for us to go and start the season off positively, given the respective league positions. But also, it's just occurred to me that that's Presley's first game for them in the league.
Aye.
So I don't know if there'll be like a bit of added dig, if not spice. And I don't know, like hopefully the fans that go really rub it into Presley. But after and I know obviously like the guy's trying to do a job and etc. etc. But I think you want to try and turn the screw on that, because I think it's been met with almost universal piss taking because he's just the most uninspiring appointment ever.
I liked his interview where he said, if you're looking for a manager who's won titles and trophies, I'm not your man.
I've got the exact quote here. Just bear with me 1 second. It was, if you look through a certain lens and you're looking for a manager with history of winning titles, then I'm not your man.
I think we should have a running list. If Steven Pressley's not your man for last season, I definitely think we should be
motivational speaking,
bringing this up throughout the season, keeping you awake near bedtime. Steven Pressley is not your man. Hopefully winning opening games of the season. Steven Pressley is not your man.
I like that one on Twitter. The boy retweeted it saying he sounds like he speaks like the sound of basketball, the shoes in the basketball court.
Aye.
Yeah.
I think that's my only negative for having Dundee. I would like to at Easter Road, but all the pre and post match stuff is going to include Presley, and it's going to be boring. So that's a bit of a downer, but we would have had to have faced that at some point. So I think there's a chance of him just boring teams into submission. Like, I think he'll just, like in what we do in the shadows, where there's the energy vampire. That's what he's going to do. He's going to fucking come into the away dressing room, just stand and chat for a wee bit and slowly drain all the energy at the visit.
The opposition manager, no, I'm not meeting him before the game. Imagine it. Just get the bus arrives at 5-3 straight out of the pitch.
Have you seen the episode of The Simpsons where Homer becomes a boxer and he goes up against a guy called Drederick Tatum eventually? But Homer's no boxer; he just ends up getting battered every single time, and then he knocks them over because they're just exhausted. That might be Steven Pressley's approach.
Aye. Green Tea says all this talk telling the club to sign Chianis. I'm sure the club would, but it's maybe him who's holding it all up. It's like there's Chianis and Sunderland that we need to deal with. There's no straightforward as Hibs just saying we want the player and that's it done.
Aye.
You got to look at some games for the last season.
Aye.
Let's do it. I'm actually just watching back the first one for the start of December.
Right, so
I
that's
can't remember. I just looked it up when you were talking there, and it was Celtic 3 Hibs now. That one. I
Aye.
cannot remember that.
So we were just off the back of the win against Motherwell.
Yeah.
This was another one where we conceded early on against Celtic. 6 minutes. Fucking stupid, eh? Like we knew what was going to come. But I think this was the game where we missed some really good chances. Like before they went
Oh yeah.
before they went in front, I'm sure this was like
Is this when
Mihajlovic.
Kurevich was good we'd done the different names here as well, just to prove the point now for early. That he was like 1-on-1 with the keeper and that we were breaking the offside line with him.
Aye.
He was aye.
Because there was 14 shots, 9 on target against them in that game, which is they only had 11 on target against us, 21 shots in total. Line up that day, we had Smith and goals, Miller, O'Hora, Yuan, Newell, Iredale, Nicky Cadden, Abita, Chiantis, Bashiri, and Miko. Joe Newell's was an own goal. What was his goal? Like, I can't even remember. Just hit off him. It was a corner or something, wasn't it? They did try to like.
I'm just going to skim the match report. Yeah.
I can't mind. I'm actually either side of Celtic opening the scoring. Karavich has had 2 chances, and I think in each chance he's had, he's taken a wee extra touch that he didn't need, and then he's done that thing that some footballers do, where he's been a wee bit embarrassed at missing 2 sitters, and he's gone off and injured.
Oh, that's right. Remember, he was injured though, mind, because he was out for a while after this.
After it.
Actually, that's fair.
It was one of your competitor podcasts. One of those colleagues, they said that it feigned injury. No names.
I was looking at it through a certain lens, as some people might say. Just because when I saw him through his second chance there, he was pulling at his groin afterwards. I don't know if that was his actual injury. It kept him out for a while.
I'm sure it was.
I was being very cynical.
But that's what it looked like. He looked like he just had a stinker in, and that was him going, "Oh fuck, get me out of here." It was a good performance. It was similar in a lot of ways to the defeat at Ibrox. After it, there was a lot to be positive about, despite the scoreline. You weren't thinking, oh, "Fucking hell, we're miles off it." It looked like we'd given them a game, and we were a bit unlucky to come away with a 3-0.
Could you call a 3-0 defeat encouraging?
As the performance was encouraging though, and that's where, John, when you start talking to us about not understanding XG and all that, that's where it helps you, because you can look at it and go, but actually on the balance of it, we were creating chances. We never took them. They only created the same amount of chances as us, for example, but they took all 3.
Have you got the XG for this game by any chance?
No, no got it for this one. I'm sure in this one our XG was 3. Like it was.
We had 9. What did you say? 9 shots on target.
9 shots on target.
Yes, it'll be reasonable.
And they were like Joe Newell had a really good chance in that game as well. Again, first half, I think he should have scored. I think if you'd gone by the XG, it would have been something like 4-3 or 3-3. And we just never took our chances.
I think Jack Ross described that as fine margins, though.
Yeah.
It would be fine margins, though. Do you mind, can we talk about managers describing games? Alex McLeish, after we beat them 3-0 at Ibrox, called Celtic beat Rangers 3-0 at Ibrox, called that a smash and grab. A 3-0 win. Smash and grab. Nice one.
So see, like I know we have a laugh about the XG, and I just take the piss with it, because like I know that you guys are. I'm going to say that you guys are passionate about it. I'm neither here nor there. But with the Kaharovic chances, he's had 2 chances through on goal, 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he's missed. Like, we can look at that and we can say he should have scored there.
Yeah.
How does XG tell us any more or less than that?
Doesn't it? Just tells you how likely, like normally, a player would be to score in that situation. So
it actually ridicules it sometimes, because when Alan McCoy scores, he's got to score there. The XG can be like 0.1, which is
like 1 in 10.
So he's got to score, but 9 times out of 10 that's missed. That's what it would tell you.
But it gives you an objective measure of a subjective thing, John. Like it's subjective to say you should score there. If somebody tell you, well, I don't think you should have, then you can back up with, well, more often than not, they do score in that situation. So That's
Alright.
where it would be useful, but I'm not passionate about it. It's just a thing, isn't it? Like
Aye,
it's
it's just a thing.
a figure.
Oh, sorry. It sounded like you were both passionate about it, the way that you defend it and try and
No,
try
it's
and
not defending
educate
it.
people with it.
There's nothing to defend. It's just a stat.
It's a thing, yeah. It's
Just a number.
just a thing.
And yet it gets us all so worked up.
No
When
me.
was it? This game, December, aye?
Aye, it was right at the start of this December the 7th.
7th.
So next game week we had Ross County at home.
Do you want me to stop and tell you what the XG was in that game?
Go for it.
Go on
It was
then.
3.73 Celtic and 2.31 Hibs.
Aye, so it was close. I remember us being like, well, more than 2. There you go. Right, the 3-1 Ross County at Easter Road. A game we conceded early, and this was. Remember this when Dwight Gale scored just
Aye.
before half time? It's actually down as 45 plus 6 in
Yeah.
the match report. We were shite that first half.
That was
Is that
bad.
the one? Is that the one where he sort of nips in at the near post? It's
Aye.
like a wee flicked header.
Was it Oiler maybe that got to
Yeah.
the
Aye.
byline? Yeah. And waited. Yeah, I was sitting at that end that day and I was right behind it. Or it felt like I was right behind it. And you're thinking, he's taking fucking ages here. Ages. And then Gil just sort of appeared at the front post and just glanced in. But that was like, it's funny when you look back and you think, we've just won 2 games. Well, we've lost one. We've lost the most recent, but we won the 2 prior to that. And at half time in that game at 0-0, I remember driving home in the car actually as well, and they were talking about in the radio. If that goal hadn't went in, the stadium was going to erupt at half time with boos.
Why
And
they
there was
were
a
ready
lot
for
of,
it?
even though we'd won 2 of the last 3 as well. And that goal, I think we mentioned this recently when we were talking about Dwight Gale. He scored important goals, like taking the edge away on a 3-1 win, scoring a third to take that pressure of the possibility of losing a late goal away. But that one there was probably one of the most important he scored, because the stadium was ready to flip. I'm sure one of the chats we were in was going mental, almost like saying, just hand him, just sack him at half time.
I think it was the comment, and this isn't designed to be. This isn't said to be a criticism of the person that made it. I think it's just reflective of how volatile the support can be at times. Like it's like in the face of not necessarily adversity, but the results that we'd had had been a pretty shit start to the season. What, 2 victories up until the Ross County game that we're talking about?
3 in total.
And it was 3 in total, and it was he's got 87 minutes to save his job. But I think that's also something that would become, to a certain extent, conditioned to believe is going to happen because of the frequency and the time that Hibs managers tend to get.
It was Ronnie on the comments who said, remember Portside wanting to go to Easter Road to hear the booing, and they definitely were like team up and were coming up for half time.
They spoke about it at the end. Yeah,
the boos had started to do that first half, and we were like shocking. I'm sure the goal we lost was really poor, and we didn't really kind of do anything in that first half to look like we were going to drag ourselves out of it.
We were still bottom of the league as well. Like I'm just sorry, dog started. I just read the match report and it said Hibs climbed off the bottom of the table with that win. So at half time, or just before half time, 1-0 down to Ross County, who were shit all season pretty much, were above us in the league. And it wasn't looking, I wouldn't have been looking very positive.
Well, our form going in that one, 3 wins each, 6 draws each, and 8 defeats each. So like Ross County were obviously struggling as well. So it was really important that we won it. Colin, I agree with that. The goal for Dwight Gale was probably up there with his most important ones that he got for us, because it meant the half time folk weren't happy, but it wasn't venomous at half time. It was like a kind of right, well, let's see what you've got. And in the second half we were much better. Ellie, you had scored a penalty in that game, apparently.
He did, aye. I can't remember it though. We did seem to get a lot of penalties around that time, because Cadden had missed one, scored one by this time and all that as well. But I can't remember Johan playing as often.
Nah.
Like, he did feature quite a lot before Christmas, eh?
Is that why Johan was on penalties? Because Boyle and Cadden had recently missed them.
Aye, Cadden missed one against St Mirren and Boyle must have missed one. Was Boyle on the team that day, aye? Boyle found himself on the team for a bit as well, remember? Boyle didn't start.
He was on the bench, so the team
was for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, team was Smith, O'Hora, Johan, Newell, Cadden, Ardale, other Cadden, Hoylett, Chantis, Bashiri, and Gale. So Gale and Ewan starting up top.
Yeah.
And then I Boyle on the bench, Levitt on the bench, Doyle Hayes, Mariah Welsh, Josh Campbell, who came on and scored. Quan was out of the picture by this point as well. That was him stopped getting the starts, and
He only got in the injury time.
aye. And Josh Campbell's goal, like to round off, was 4 minutes past the 90 as well. So the injury time one just to make the score a bit better.
Yeah.
And then I thought the second half was much better. It was in the end it was a pretty comfortable win, and you kind of look back and you wonder what the fuss was about in the first half there.
I know, but it was bad. It was the performance as much as we're saying the Celtic performance was decent the week before and lost 3-0. The performance in that half was shite, and it was 1-1. So it's just that obviously the difference a goal can make, to me, because it was worse in the 1-1 game, in the 1-1 half than it was in the 3-0 defeat.
Next up was Aberdeen to be trip up to Pittodrie. Lineup
hard place to go.
Hard place to go. So the lineup.
It's actually so you know how I've made a bit of a sort of running theme about naming places, hard places to go. Naming stadiums as hard places to go. I think I'd looked at it. Was it? In fact, ignore me. I was thinking about Motherwell. However, the point still stands a wee bit that Pittodrie's seen as a difficult place to go. Like we haven't had good results there, but that seemed to sort of come undone a little bit after Christian Doidge scored on the half volley up there. We've had a few positive results up there since, so it holds a little bit less of a fear factor these days.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think we were like Aberdeen were still like they've gone off the ball, but they were still quite good form. Like they were 10 wins, 4 draws, and 3 defeats for the season.
They're still in the top 2, mate. I'm just reading the match report. They slipped out of the top 2 after this loss. They were still above Rangers at this point in December.
Can I just? Would you mind if I just, while you're talking, go and check out their form? I'm just looking on the Wikipedia page for Hibs results and what they were doing in. So their form throughout November going into December in our games. So November, 23rd of November, loss, draw, loss, draw, and then this loss. So they'd had basically a shit month and a half.
Mm-hmm. And it went on much longer. We lined up Smith and goals, O'Hora, Ewan, Boyle, back into the starting lineup. Newell, Cadden, Iredale, Nicky Cadden, Chantis, Josh Campbell started and Rocky as well. And we went behind in this game as well, which I think we started quite brightly, and then Aberdeen scored. It was a boy shot for like the left-hand side of the box, didn't it, if I remember right? So it broke free. Again, I think we'd maybe made a bit of a mess of it, and he ran in on goal, if I remember.
Oh, it wasn't great defensively, was it?
Yeah. Just a bit of shambles.
He was in acres of space, it says. That's right, it's ringing a bell.
But then we got back into it. We had, I think it was a flick on for Josh Campbell that landed at Boyle. In fact, the Aberdeen defender took a wild swipe at it, didn't he? He fucked up.
Oh, the boy that...
The Ewan just...
Is that the defender that was rumoured to have shit himself? There was a wee bit of video footage going on for a while.
Was there?
Aye, there was he went off. He went off because he had the shits or something. But Boyle got the 2 assists for the first 2 goals in this game.
Aye.
He laid Ewan on. I think they were through 2-1 and he scored it for Ewan, didn't he?
Aye, Ewan pretty much had a tap in.
Yeah.
And he set up Nicky Cadden. That was a good one. It was like he stood up at the back post and Cadden and then Boyle scored. It was Chantis won the ball back in midfield and just played him in.
Aye.
Straight through a goal.
And this is where, like, Boyle had been at the team, and this was 2 assists and a goal. And this is when he said his mum had been saying you're shite or something to that effect at that point. And he obviously got back in the team with the 2 assists and a goal. And then Ewan ran about with a corner flag.
Right enough. That was the first time they'd done it, wasn't it? They lifted the corner flag. I think this was the game that you sort of sensed that things had turned. John, like it was the 3-3 Easter Road had been a good result, but to go to Pittodrie and then turn them over 3-1, it felt then like this was the moment where you realised we'd probably be all right. Like we didn't have to worry for the rest of the season. I don't know. That's how I felt. What were
When
you?
did you say it on the radio? Sorry to butt in. You'll answer that in a second. When was it you said on the radio? Now that we'll no be back down there in the bottom two. Was it after this or was it early in the year?
I can't remember when it was. I think it was
Because
before.
you did say it.
Wherever it was that we came out, so it might be after the Ross County game.
Uh,
I can't remember if I was on the radio after the Ross County one. In fact,
you might have been, because there was when you were hanging about. I was nearly home and you were still sitting outside in the car at the stadium waiting to go on.
Maybe it was that one. So I think I went on to have a bit of a go at them for reveling and Hibs fucking up and then fucking it up. But I don't know, but John, like, did you have that sense that after this result, did you see it as a significant one?
I'm trying to cast my mind back. I was just reveling in Nicky Cadden's goal after there was a wee bit of really good interplay between Joe Newell and Martin Boyle, who stood up at the back post. And I think Nicky Cadden could have gone for a much easier finish, but he's just absolutely smashed a volley, burst the net. So are you asking me, because I think the conversations that we'd had a few months prior were about relegation, and I'd suggested, and Colin and I slightly disagreed about like the stats and what have you. Like I'd say that there was some hallmarks of a relegation team, like you could be playing well but not getting the result, playing well and maybe could see the penalty like the 92nd minute or whatever. Are you asking me whether I thought that we were going to be okay and avoid relegation at this point, or that we were going to
move
be
on,
all right and have a strong league finish or whatever?
Like get top six, maybe. Like we wouldn't be looking at an absolute abomination of a season as it was heading towards before.
I'll be honest, I can't remember. However, I think you might agree that when I talk about this sort of stuff, like I try not to get too high or too low about results. So when you're talking about like the Ross County game where people were on tenterhooks to start booing the team at half time, that's never me. Like I don't think I've ever booed a Hibs team. I would have probably looked at it and gone, that was a good result. Who have we got next? Who's behind us? What will it mean if we win? What will it mean if the other team drop points, etc.? What will that mean for our chances? It's never. I try never to look too far ahead because it's a little bit too much like it feels a little bit too much like tempting fate because of some of the things that I mentioned like last week with regards to like variables or like injuries, other teams, what they're doing, etc. What referee you happen to get and what he decides to do that week.
Fair enough. Colin, do you think we could catch Aberdeen at this point?
No. But I didn't think we were getting relegated. But then I never ever thought we were getting relegated. But Aberdeen were miles ahead. They just, as I said, just dropped to the top two. We were just at the bottom two. So it was a huge ask at that point. You didn't expect Aberdeen to be as shit. The proper relegation form from this point to the end of the season, as they showed in that cup final in the graphic before the cup final.
Yeah.
In November, Aberdeen would have been bottom of the league. You know, they had an absolute golden patch in the 2 months. Interestingly, though, John, their XG was higher in this game than ours. So, like, and if you read the match report, it does say that Hibs were clinical, which is what, like, we didn't have as many chances as them or as good chances as them, and but we took them.
I think, if I remember, Smith pulled out a couple of good saves. They probably had got a couple of bad misses as well.
They had one that came back off the post. So I think when you were talking about the goals that they scored, they threatened down the left, their left-hand side before they scored. Then they scored, and then there was almost like a carbon copy run where the boys cut inside, and he's almost curled an absolute beauty into the top corner. But it's luckily for us. And these are some of the things that happen in games. And another day, maybe it doesn't bounce along the goal line and actually drifts inside the post.
Yeah,
depending on what the groundsman's been.
That was the whole debate. That was the whole debate at the time, right? I think he put a thread up on Hibs.net saying about being unlucky, and it was like these wee things going against you, you know. And it was like hammered at the time because everybody was like, "No, we're shite. We're bottom of the league because we deserve to be in that." But actually, when you looked at the performances, maybe the XG or whatever the metric you're using was, we were like fucking like goalie chucking it in or getting a daft penalty away, not like being shite and being miles off it. But that's where everybody's minds were because we were bottom of the league and the Hibs fans kept telling us it.
Aye. John, have you ever curled a beauty?
Curled a beauty
Ah,
once or twice.
good.
Home, away, in the bathroom.
Right, next game was Boxing Day in the Derby. Colin, what do you remember about this day?
I remember we won comfortably. Felt comfortable, even though it was only 2-1. But that's about as comfortable as it gets in a derby for us. Like even when we're good, it's like a 1-goal win.
Aye.
But I think so. Did we go? Let me remember. Did we go 1-0 down in this game?
No.
I think we did. Did we not?
No,
Oh,
no.
we scored. So
Oh yes, that was the guy. The
the thing
VAR.
on, aye, down
This
on the
one, yeah.
pitch, an own goal for Kai Rolls.
Aye,
But I think Josh Campbell got credited with
the game.
aye.
Aye, because it was the header, wasn't it? Was it Nicky Cadden corner? I can't remember. There was a corner that came in and he headed it and it bounced off the guy and in. And they tried to get the linesman says Rocky was standing in front of Craig Gordon because Craig Gordon done the arms out thing, which makes the referee's linesman's mind up. Fortunately, VAR was there because otherwise there would have been another goal against them that we didn't get. That away end was tremendous when that goal went in.
Aye.
That's what I remember about that.
As soon as the ball hit the net, you see it up and it was fucking brilliant.
Aye. And one day I never had my notifications off because I wasn't at the game. I was in the house watching it. I was drinking right away early doors because it's Boxing Day. So it was I think the bar was open early, 11 o'clock, and you're going VAR, but I was about a minute ahead in real life because I'm watching it on the telly. But then normally I just want to watch it when it happens, but I couldn't that day. Like I was needing to know is this fucking given or not? So we had some mates at the game as well as everybody watching it maybe not on their stick. That get that wee bit quicker than you. So aye, it was a good day. It was cracking, cracking day.
And a really comfortable performance. And even though Hearts got the goal back just before half time, own goal for Rocky, he just kind of took a swing and missed, didn't he, with the clearance and knocked it in.
Right enough. Fucking hell, Rocky, man. Aye.
You were really
Still
comfortable in
going
that
to try and sign him.
game. This was almost one of the last things that he made like a proper mistake, though, isn't it, for the season?
One of the last, thank you, the week after, I think St Johnstone maybe.
Were you concerned that we wouldn't have won this game at any point, John?
Do you know, maybe I think I'd probably be a bit of a hypocrite if I said no, because I think with our experiences over the years at Tynecastle and my own experiences, there's been how to describe it, like kick in the teeth moments or boot in the ball moments. And I think I described it on one of the sort of last podcasts that I had before taking a wee bit of a break while I focused on uni work. I think I described the combination of the player who was an easy target for supporters and the fact it was in that game and it was an own goal. It was like a combination of things could have derailed the second half, could have derailed the performance entirely. But actually, I'm looking at the possession here. Like Hearts had 2/3 of the possession, and I think.
Did you look at the XG though, John?
I'm just looking at the basic BBC license player website, mate. I've not got the access to the database.
Our XG was much higher than them, double.
So this is what I was going to say. Like, so you've got different indicators of the game. You can tell a narrative of, you can construct a narrative of the story. So what I was going to suggest was that I think that one of the things that Hibs did well last season was absorb pressure and go on and up the other end of the park and score goals. And this is one of those games I think probably bears that out a wee bit. I think, obviously possession is one thing, but it doesn't tell the story. So they might have had a load of possession, but it was maybe all in their half or in non-dangerous areas, and we've soaked it up and then we've gone out and got a goal. And it was a phenomenal goal. And it was one of, when we were talking about Dwight Gale last week and the goals they scored late in the game, I think the earliest goal that he scored might have been the one that you were talking about earlier, like 45 plus 2. All the other goals, I think, based on what I was looking at on Wikipedia, were second half, late in the second half. And this is one that just kind of took the edge off for those like final few minutes.
Jason Ladd said Gale sickened the bastards. Ian said I was going round to Hebrides with a Jambo who was at the game, and I pretended I didn't ken that the Jambos had been singing Rocky's name, and I made him tell the whole story. Tremendous. The goal for Gale here was terrific. This was probably the first time we really got a sense of how good Nicky Cadden's delivery was as well. The way, like, I mean, he put some good crosses in, but the ball in for Gale was unreal.
Yeah.
Would you remember the goal, Colin?
I've described it a few times now. That's kind of what I was written there, because like I remember what I remember about it was spotting it early, the opportunity, because Gale came over and won the ball over on the touchline and kept it in. And I can't remember, they gave it to Trianis maybe, who fired it over to Cadden. And by the time we got to Cadden, Gale was at the front post waiting on that ball coming in to flick it past Gordon. Obviously, Gordon's too old to get down yet. But it was a brilliant goal. But I remember sitting with my drink in my hand, getting like what I'm doing now, edging off my seat to the point when the ball was coming in, I was almost standing. Because you could see it, like you could almost see it. Come on, apologies to everybody, because I think I've said that about 2 or 3 times now in various different podcasts, but that's genuinely my memory of it. I think that's how I probably described it when we recorded.
And then the scenes at the end of that game, John, again, Ellie running about with a corner flag for Tiny and Rocky taking the cheers for the Hibs fans and everything. It was, it would obviously would have the Aberdeen game, and then this one where it felt like that bond was being built again. You know, like that had been fractured earlier in the season. It looked like the team and the support were as one once more.
I think it had maybe been fractured a while before that. That, you know, you were talking about like the Ross County game and folk ready to boo and whatnot. Like that was indicative of how volatile it had been for some time. But yeah, those things will be like it sounds so simple, but winning games, scoring goals, and I think performances like Nicky Cadden's, for example, like the contribution that individual players were making, made a big difference towards how people were feeling about the team again.
And then that's it.
We went up to 7th in the league after that.
Did we?
Aye, and Hearts were down to 11th, which obviously made it even better. But you know what? You know what as well with the Rocky stuff, because you're right, John. I think you sort of touched on it. He scored that OG, which was fucking really bad. But then the Hearts fans got on his case. But then it kind of made the Hibs fans say, "Fuck you!" Instead of moaning about Rocky making the mistake, which I was to you, Matthew, in the Get the Time saying this is just why we can't keep him.
Aye.
The fans in the ground just got behind them, and then it brought like that then seemed to bring him to a new level, because he thought they've all got my back, sort of thing, for the rest of the season. Because it was a big turning point now. Because if we had lost that game, he would have been absolutely hounded out.
Well, he did almost sell the pies, didn't he? Like right at the last, so was it an injury time where he gave Shanklin the chance, but Shanklin just dithered on it, and we managed to get back and defend it, and then doesn't matter at that point. We went on to win. Right, we rounded off December and 2024 with a 1-0 win over Killie, Easter Roads. Didn't remember too much of this game. Lineup was Smith, Miller, Boyle, Newell, Chris Cadden, Iredale, Nicky Cadden, Hoylett, Giannis, Campbell, and Bashiri. Killie had a man sent off for 2 bookings.
He was moaning about that, mind Dale.
Aye.
He's the excuse maker.
And Giannis scored. What was his goal? Was that a header?
Header for a corner. Cadden corner. Down at the away end. I was in the away end that day. Not in the away end, but in the Dunbarton. Yeah. It was down at that end. First half header, for the corner. Straight in, just a straight cut, like just ran to the near post maybe, and just headed it in. Pretty basic goal, like, you know, pure defending for Kilmarnock.
Yeah. And a pretty unremarkable game, otherwise, if I remember it. Even like I can't remember what the 2 bookings were for.
There was one that was moaning because he came in late and he was saying, well, he tried to tackle him, so you can't book him because he's tried to make a tackle or something ridiculous. And everybody's going, what? Every tackle that gets booked is we're trying to make a tackle. But because it's Dale, these pals were all helping him out. But you can't appeal it because it was 2 yellows.
Gary Mackay Stephen was on the bench for Kilmarnock in that game. Was he with him last season? Obviously, must have been. I can't remember him being at Kilmarnock at all last season. He normally scores against us today. Like, it feels like he does. Has a good game against us.
I'm just reading Dell, right? And I've got to get to it. I'll read this to you, and then I'll read you the XG, right? I thought the game was pretty open, blah, 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 right? I thought we were far better in the second half. We had a good ascendancy, and there was a lot of nervousness coming from the Hibs team, I thought, at that point. XG, 2.32 versus 0.25. So they barely had a fucking chance. We had loads. But they were by far the better team in the ascendancy.
Back off, Del. And can you tell us where we finished up? What our league placing was at the end of that game, Colin? You got that information?
I've just seen the match report, mate. I don't know if it only says it if you've jumped a place usually.
So maybe still finishing off in seventh
Maybe
place.
Seventh, because it took a while to climb.
Aye, it did.
Doesn't he say?
Pretty positive December though, eh? Like only really that Celtic result was a sickener.
Yeah. 4 wins, 1 defeat.
Take that, eh?
There was one comment in David Gray's match report right at the very end of the first half. Joe Newell went into a tackle and overstretched his groin a little bit. Hopefully, it's nothing serious.
Aye, fucking hell.
Fuck, I was at this game.
Aye. Well, we knew after it. We met in the.
Was that this one?
Where was it? The volley? Who did we meet? Was it the volley?
The Boundary Bar, right?
Boundary.
That'll be why I didn't remember so much yet.
Aye.
And a few pints after. That was a good afternoon, that again. Right, we'll wrap it there. January next week. Is there a January break?
Nah, we're straight to St Johnstone 2nd of January. Mind, looks hard place to go.
What we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 games to cover next week then. Hopefully have some more transfer chat because there's not a lot really coming for Hibs. I think the Hibs have done a lot to try and tighten up the leaks. Noticed even some of like the in the know posters on like Hibs net and are kind of getting this might happen, but it might no posts.
They're the best ones.
Aye. Anyway,
a couple of hard places to go in January. Just for a wee preview there for everybody. The kind of
Johnson Rangers, Motherwell, and Ross County.
In the league, had Clydebank in there as well. Yeah,
that
wasn't a hard place to go
though. Maybe get 6 points out of 12.
Let's see how we do when we turn up next week. Right, we'll have extra time tomorrow for subscribers. I did a wee piece for 442 magazine. So if you're somebody who buys 442, they do a wee thing like at the start of each season and ask fans like, okay, describe your team last season and who you're looking forward to playing and all these kind of things. So there'll be a wee bit in there. We'll go through the questions in extra time as well for the subscribers. So John and Colin will give their answers, and I'll see if I answer the same this time as I did when I wrote it down. Who knows? Probably not. So anyway, look forward to that, subscribers, and we'll see you next time.